There is something many people only realize when it is already too late, something silent, gradual, and extremely dangerous: the loss of strength in the legs. And what is most surprising is that it does not happen overnight. It happens slowly, hidden in small changes in your daily life. And there is a reason why some populations manage to avoid this for much longer. A clear example of this is elderly Japanese people, known for maintaining strength, balance, and independence even at advanced ages. While in many parts of the world leg strength declines drastically after age 60, in Japan many elderly people manage to preserve much of this ability for much longer. And this does not happen by chance. It is not genetics, it is not luck, it is the result of simple and consistent habits practiced daily. But before talking about these habits, there is something you need to recognize first: the signs that indicate your strength may already be declining. Because the body always gives warnings, the problem is that most people ignore these signs until they become impossible to ignore. The first sign is simple but extremely important: difficulty standing up from a chair without support. If you notice that you need to use your hands, push your body, or rely on support to stand up, this should not be ignored. Because a healthy body should be able to perform this movement using only leg strength. The second sign is even more subtle: avoiding activities on the floor. Many people stop sitting on the floor not because they don't want to, but because they are afraid they won't be able to get up afterward. And this fear is a clear warning of loss of functional strength. The third sign appears on stairs: instability, insecurity, and the constant need for support. If your legs shake or you avoid stairs, it is not just fatigue, it is lack of strength and control. Now there is something few people like to hear, but it needs to be said clearly: when you ignore these signs, the problem does not stay at the same level, it progresses. And this progression is not just physical, it begins to affect your routine, your confidence, and how you live your daily life. Small difficulties begin to turn into limitations, simple tasks start requiring planning, and what used to be automatic becomes a challenge. And there is a critical point where everything changes: the increased risk of falls. Because when strength decreases and balance is compromised, the body loses the ability to react quickly. And a simple loss of balance can turn into something much more serious. And here is the most important point of all: it is not just about the fall, it is about what comes after it. Slower recovery, higher risk of injuries, loss of independence, and often a direct impact on quality of life. But there is something extremely important that completely changes this story: you can act before this happens. And the earlier you start, the greater your chances of reversing these signs and regaining your strength. Now imagine the opposite: imagine not only avoiding this loss, but strengthening your legs to the point where you feel more secure than you did years ago. This is not only possible, it is already happening with thousands of people who apply these simple principles every day. And that is exactly what you are about to understand now: how to turn simple movements into a solid foundation of strength, balance, and confidence. Because the secret was never doing more, it has always been doing better, with awareness, intention, and consistency. And this completely changes how you should see this process, because it is not about going back to what you were before, but about building a stronger and more stable version of yourself from now on. Now think for a moment: how many times have you felt insecure while walking, climbing a step, or standing up quickly? And this transformation does not begin with something complex, it begins with simple movements done the right way. Now there is a detail that makes all the difference: it is not just the exercise, it is how you perform it, the attention you give, and the intention behind each movement. Because when you move with awareness, you activate muscles that are usually inactive, improve coordination, and increase stability. And that is exactly what differentiates those who just move from those who truly improve. Now you are about to learn the first of these movements, something simple but extremely powerful when done the right way. And I need you to pay attention to this, because this first exercise may seem basic, but it builds the foundation for everything that comes next. Now tell me something: are you ready to start changing this today, or will you continue ignoring these signs? Because from here on, it is no longer about knowing, it is about doing. Now we are going to start with something that seems too simple to work, something you do every day without thinking, but when done correctly can completely transform the strength, balance, and stability of your legs. Walking, but not just any walking. There is a specific way of walking practiced by elderly Japanese people that goes far beyond simply moving from one place to another. This practice is known as mindful walking, where every step is done with full attention, as if it were a complete exercise. And here is the point that changes everything: when you walk this way, you activate far more muscles than in a normal walk. Not just the main leg muscles, but also stabilizing muscles responsible for balance and control. And that is exactly what makes this practice so powerful. It does not just work strength, it works coordination, body awareness, and stability at the same time. Now imagine the impact of this over time. Each step becomes a stimulus, each movement strengthens your body and improves your reaction ability. And that is exactly why elderly Japanese people maintain leg strength for so long, because they turn something common into a daily exercise. Now let's go into execution, because this is where the real difference happens. When walking, you must pay attention to the sequence of the movement. First the heel touches the ground, then the middle of the foot, and finally the toes push the body forward. This pattern activates the entire leg muscle chain efficiently, distributing weight properly and reducing impact on the joints. Another essential point is rhythm. You should not walk fast. The goal is not speed, it is control. The slower and more conscious the movement, the greater the stimulus and the better the result. Now add breathing. Every 3 steps take a deep breath, creating a rhythm between body and mind. This not only improves movement, but also calms the nervous system and increases the sense of control. And what's most impressive, you only need a few minutes a day to start feeling the results. Now get ready, because the continuation of this exercise will show something even more important: the mistakes most people make without realizing it. Now there is a detail that may seem small, but makes all the difference in results. Most people walk on autopilot, without noticing how they step, without feeling the movement. And this is the first mistake, walking without awareness, because when you do this, your body simply repeats old patterns without improving. But when you begin paying attention to each step, something changes. Your body starts to learn, adjust, and improve. Another very common mistake is walking too fast, believing it will bring more benefit. But in this case, speed gets in the way, because it reduces control and decreases activation of stabilizing muscles. The goal here is not to get tired, it is to strengthen, improve control, and stability. Now there is a third mistake that few notice: stepping unevenly, placing more weight on one leg than the other. This creates imbalance in the body, which over time can lead to compensations and increase the risk of injuries. That's why when walking, try to feel your weight being evenly distributed between both legs. Now let's talk about progression, because this exercise may start simple, but it can become extremely powerful over time. At the beginning, you can practice inside your home, in a hallway, using the wall as support if needed. Over time, you can increase the distance, walk outdoors, and challenge your balance on different surfaces. And this makes your body adapt more and more, becoming stronger, more stable, and more efficient. Now here is something impressive. Studies have shown that this type of walking can significantly improve circulation, balance, and reduce the risk of falls. And all of this with just a few minutes per day, as long as it is done consistently. Now imagine the impact of this over months: your body more stable, your steps more secure, and your confidence increasing every day. Now get ready, because the next exercise will work something even deeper: leg strength in a complete way. And this awareness activates muscles that are usually inactive, muscles responsible for keeping your body stable and safe. And there is something even more important: this practice improves your reaction ability. Because when you are aware of your body, you react faster to any imbalance. And that can be the difference between recovering from a stumble or experiencing a fall. Another important point is that this practice also works your mind, because it requires focus, attention, and presence. And this creates a dual effect: you strengthen your body while improving your mental clarity. Now imagine this over days: you not only move better, you feel more present, more balanced, and more confident. And all of this begins with something extremely simple: how you take your next step. Now that you understand this, the next exercise will take your strength to another level, working deeper and essential muscles. And that is exactly what you should aim for with this walking method: not just practice for a few minutes, but incorporate this way of moving into your daily life. Every time you stand up, every time you walk inside your house or outside, you have an opportunity to reinforce this pattern. And the more you repeat it, the more your body learns, the more your muscles respond, and the more natural it becomes. Now imagine the impact of this over months. You don't just improve during exercise, you improve all the time. Now that this foundation has been built, you are ready for the next level, an exercise that will work strength directly and intensely. Now we arrive at a movement that may seem uncomfortable at first, but is considered one of the most natural and complete for the human body, the deep squat. While many people see this position as difficult or even impossible, in some cultures it is as common as sitting in a chair. And that is exactly what happens in Japan, where elderly people maintain this habit throughout life, preserving strength, mobility, and leg control. Now there is something very important you need to understand. The problem is not that your body cannot perform this movement, the problem is that it stopped practicing it. And when you stop using a function, your body adapts, it loses mobility, strength, and control. But the good news is that this process can be reversed, and the deep squat is one of the most effective ways to do it. This movement works almost all the muscles in your legs at the same time: quadriceps, hamstrings, glutes, and even your core. And at the same time, it keeps your joints active, especially ankles and hips. Now imagine the impact of this in your daily life. Standing up, sitting down, bending, and even regaining balance become much easier. And this is not just strength, it is functionality, your body's ability to do what it needs at the right time. Now let's go into execution, because this is where the real difference happens. Position your feet slightly wider than shoulder width, with your toes slightly pointed outward. Now begin to lower yourself slowly, bringing your hips down as if trying to sit on the floor. Keep your heels on the ground and your spine straight, avoiding rounding your back. Lower yourself as far as your body allows without pain, and hold that position for a few seconds. And here is the secret: it is not maximum depth, it is control of the movement. Now get ready, because the continuation of this exercise will show how to adapt this movement and progress safely. Now there is something you need to understand before continuing. No matter your current level, you do not need to perform the movement perfectly from the start. The most important thing is to adapt the exercise to your body, respecting your limits and progressing gradually. If you cannot go all the way down yet, that is fine, start with a partial version. You can use a chair as a reference, lowering until you lightly touch it and then standing up again. Another option is to hold onto a table or wall, reducing load and increasing control. And that is not weakness, that is strategy, because real progress happens when you build a foundation. Now let's talk about mistakes, because avoiding mistakes accelerates progress much more than just trying to get it right. The first mistake is lifting your heels off the ground during the movement. This reduces proper muscle activation and overloads other areas. If that happens, you can place a small support under your heels temporarily. Another common mistake is rounding your back while lowering. This shifts focus away from the legs and can create discomfort in your spine. So keep your chest open and your spine aligned throughout the movement. Now let's talk about progression, because this exercise can become extremely powerful over time. At first, hold the position for a few seconds, then gradually increase the time. Over time, try to hold the squat for 30 seconds, then 1 minute, and so on. And the more you practice, the more natural this position becomes. Now imagine the impact of this on your body: more mobility, more strength, and much more control. Now get ready, because the next step will work something even more challenging: balance. Now we move into an exercise that may seem simple at first, but has a profound impact on how your body reacts in daily life: standing on one leg. Because in most real-life situations, when you lose balance, your body needs to support itself for a few seconds on just one leg. And it is exactly in those seconds that everything is decided, whether you recover or fall. Now imagine not having enough strength or control at that moment. Your body simply does not respond in time. But here is the most interesting part: this type of response can be trained. And standing on one leg is one of the most effective ways to do that. This exercise activates deep muscles that are rarely used in daily life, especially stabilizers of the ankle, knee, and hip. At the same time, it improves something even more important: your body awareness, which is your ability to know exactly where your body is in space. Now let's move to execution, because this is what truly transforms the exercise. Stand upright with your feet parallel and slowly shift your weight onto one leg. Now lift the other leg off the ground, just a few centimeters. It doesn't need to be high. The goal is not height, it is stability. Keep your gaze fixed on a point in front of you. This helps a lot with balance. And try to hold this position as long as possible without losing control. Now get ready, because the continuation will show how to progress in this exercise and improve your results even further. Now there is something you need to understand about balance. It does not depend only on strength, it depends on control, awareness, and repetition. Because balance is not just a state, it is a skill that can be trained and improved over time. And the more you practice, the faster your body learns to react. Now let's talk about progression, because this exercise can go far beyond the basics. At the beginning, you can use support, holding onto a wall or chair. Over time, try to reduce that support until you can balance on your own. After that, you can increase the challenge by closing your eyes for a few seconds. This activates your balance system even more, making the exercise more effective. Another progression is to slightly move the raised leg, creating controlled instability. This forces your body to constantly adapt, improving your reaction ability. Now let's talk about mistakes, because they can compromise results. The first mistake is looking down. This destabilizes the body and makes balance harder. Another common mistake is tensing your entire body. Balance requires control, not stiffness. Now imagine the impact of this in your daily life, your body reacting faster, your steps more secure, and your confidence increasing. And this drastically reduces the risk of falls. Now get ready, because the next exercise will work endurance and circulation intensely. Now we arrive at an exercise that many people ignore, but it can be one of the most important for keeping your legs strong, active, and with good circulation, the calf raise. There is a reason why this exercise is so powerful. The calf is known as the body's second heart. Because it helps pump blood back to the heart, especially from the legs. Now imagine what happens when this area is weak. Blood circulation becomes more difficult, leading to heaviness, swelling, and constant fatigue. But when you strengthen this muscle, everything changes, circulation improves, fatigue decreases, and your legs feel lighter. And the most impressive part is that this result can begin with an extremely simple movement. Now let's move to execution, because this is where the real difference happens. Stand upright with your feet aligned and flat on the ground. Now slowly lift your heels, rising onto the balls of your feet. Rise as high as you can, contracting your calves with intention. Then slowly lower down, controlling the movement all the way. And here is the secret: it is not about going up fast, it is about going up with control and coming down even slower. Because it is in that control that the muscle truly strengthens. Now imagine repeating this movement every day, even for just a few minutes. Over time, your circulation improves, your legs become more resistant, and your body responds better to effort. Now get ready, because the continuation of this exercise will show how to progress and increase results even further. Now there is something that completely transforms this exercise into one of the most effective for your legs: progression. Because at the beginning, the movement may seem simple, but over time it can become extremely challenging. And that is exactly what you should aim for: constant progression without needing equipment. At first, you can perform the exercise with both feet on the ground. But as you gain strength, you can progress to doing it on one leg. This doubles the intensity and significantly increases results. Another way to progress is to increase the duration of the movement. Rising in 2 seconds and lowering in 4, creating more control and muscle stimulation. Now let's talk about mistakes, because they can limit your results. The first mistake is performing the movement too quickly. This reduces muscle activation and decreases the benefit of the exercise. Another common mistake is not rising fully. The higher you rise, the greater the stimulus. Now imagine the impact of doing this exercise correctly every day. Your circulation improves, your balance strengthens, and your endurance increases. And this reflects directly in your life: less fatigue, more energy, and more confidence when walking. Now get ready, because the next exercise will work something even deeper: coordination and total body control. Now we reach a point where everything begins to connect, because until now you have worked on strength, balance, and endurance separately, but in real life, your body never uses these abilities in isolation. Every movement you make involves multiple muscles working together, in sequence, with precision and control. And that is exactly what you are going to start training now: full body integration. Because it is not enough to have strength, you need to know how to use it at the right time. It is not enough to have balance while standing still, you need to maintain control and motion. And that is what separates those who just train from those who truly move well. Now imagine a movement that simulates real-life situations, standing up, taking a step, and stabilizing your body. This type of stimulus prepares your body directly for daily life. Now let's go into execution, because this is where everything changes. Start seated on a firm chair, with your feet flat on the ground. Now stand up slowly, using your leg strength without momentum. Once standing, take a controlled step forward. Then stabilize your body, holding your balance for a few seconds. Then return to the starting position and repeat the movement. This exercise works strength, coordination, balance, and control all at once. And that is exactly what you need to move safely in your daily life. Now get ready, because the continuation will show how to progress this movement and make it even more powerful. Now there is something that transforms this movement into one of the most complete you can do: progression. Because at the beginning, standing up and taking a step may already be challenging, but over time this movement can evolve significantly. And this evolution is what will take your body to a new level of capability. One way to progress is to increase the stabilization time after the step. Instead of stopping for just 1 second, try holding your balance for 3, 5, or even more seconds. This increases control and strengthens stabilizing muscles. Another way to progress is to vary the direction of the step. Step forward, then sideways, then backward. This challenges the body in different ways and further improves coordination. Now let's talk about mistakes, because they can limit your progress. The first mistake is using momentum when standing up. This shifts the focus away from your legs and reduces the benefit of the exercise. Another common mistake is not stabilizing your body after the step. Without this pause, you lose the most important part of the exercise. Now imagine applying this movement in your daily life. Standing up from a chair, stepping with control, and maintaining balance. This becomes automatic and improves your safety in any situation. And this drastically reduces the risk of falls and increases your confidence. Now we arrive at the point that separates those who understand from those who truly transform: routine. Because it does not matter how many exercises you know or how much you have learned so far, if it does not become daily practice, nothing changes. And here is the best part: you don't need hours, you need consistency. A few minutes per day, done the right way, can generate much greater results than long workouts done irregularly. Now imagine organizing these exercises into a simple routine you can maintain every day. In the morning, you can start with mindful walking. A few minutes paying attention to your steps, activating your body and preparing your legs. During the day, you can include single leg balance. Using simple moments, like brushing your teeth or waiting for something. And at night, you can work on strength with squats and calf raises. Creating a complete cycle of stimulation throughout the day. And this completely changes the outcome, because your body stops being inactive for long periods. Now there is a mistake you need to avoid: trying to do everything perfectly. Because that creates frustration and causes many people to give up. The most important thing is not perfection, it is continuity. Now imagine maintaining this routine for weeks. Your body begins to respond, your movements improve, and your confidence increases. And over months, this change becomes permanent. Because many people manage to improve for a few weeks, but end up returning to the starting point because they do not know how to sustain progress. And this does not happen due to lack of ability, it happens due to lack of strategy. Now imagine you have built strength, balance, and confidence, but gradually begin to stop. Your body quickly notices this change and begins to adapt again. And since it always seeks efficiency, it eliminates what is not being used. Now there is a very simple strategy that works very well: reducing the routine to the essentials. Choosing a few exercises and maintaining them every day. Because the simpler it is, the easier it will be to maintain. Another point important is adjusting intensity according to your routine. On more tiring days, you reduce; on better days, you increase. And this avoids a very common mistake: stopping completely because you cannot do everything. Now imagine maintaining this pattern for months. Because everything you have seen so far only makes a difference if you choose to apply it. There is a version of you that continues exactly as it is, with the same habits, the same patterns, and the same results. And there is another version that starts today, that decides to act, that decides to move and change. And the difference between these two versions is not time, it is choice. Now imagine yourself a few months from now. Stronger, more balanced, with more confidence when walking and moving. Imagine standing up without difficulty, climbing stairs safely, and feeling in control of your body. This is not something distant, it is the result of the small actions you start today. And perhaps most importantly, you are not just strengthening your legs, you are protecting your independence. So start now, not tomorrow, not later, now. Even if it is with a single movement, because that is how everything begins. And if this content made sense to you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because a simple decision can completely change someone's future. And now you know exactly what to do.